Hey guys, happy Halloween. Today is October 31st, and I thought, well, this is time for my last final prediction on who's going to win the presidential election. Last December, I was looking in my looking glass. I thought it would be a Joe Biden victory. Little did I know Joe Biden would be forced out. I thought that Joe Biden would win just because of the demographics, how that's changing in America, and that still could come into play. So I decided to step back. Okay, this just a couple days before the election, and try to be neutral. Obviously, I'm for Trump. I hope he wins. I'm going to vote for Trump, but I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I wanted to look at Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, their advantages each candidate has, and then I will give you my final prediction, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so I'm going to start with Kamala Harris. Uh, why there's a chance that she will win? What does she have in her advantage? I would say number one, she has the women vote. Women tend to support Kamala Harris. Now, I should be fair and do a disclaimer. Married white women will support Trump. That's already the case, and Kamala Harris knows that. In fact, they're running ads. They ran an ad with two married couples, both white too. That's how often do you see that in ads? And the women, they went to the polls and they secretly looked at each other knowingly, like, yes, we're not going to have our abusive husbands tell us to vote for Trump. We're secretly in the voting box going to vote for Kamala. So they're running those cynical ads already. And there's, for a lot of women, this is a thing. Not only you'd have the first woman president, but a lot of women are big on killing their children. That's like their number one thing. And even though Trump is not coming out for an abortion ban, he did help to get rid of Roe versus Wade. So it's back to the states. The left hates that. And there's a strong contingent of women that's their number one priority. They want to be able to kill their children. And so we can't discount that. I think Trump has handled that pretty well, but that is still a factor. And the female turnout so far seems pretty high. More women vote in America than men. So that could be trouble for Donald Trump. Then we also have the TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. And even though Kamala herself is a weak candidate and a lot of people aren't excited about her, but they really hate Donald Trump. There's people that they're just insane about Donald Trump. They break down, they cry, they think about him all day. I thought that was more of a meme, but it's actually reality. There's people like this that are just crazed against him. They just hate him. They start to shake. And these people, they're motivated to go out, not so much to vote for Kamala Harris, but to vote against Donald Trump. And most of Kamala Harris' campaign hasn't been about her vision for the future. It's about her calling Donald Trump a Nazi, a fascist, all the bad things. So it's just been based on hate against Donald Trump. And that does inspire a lot of people. And the third reason that's an advantage to Kamala is demographics. This is what I brought up last year, and this isn't going away. As the country becomes less white, it's going to be very difficult for the Republicans to win. That's just reality of the situation. If only white men voted in America like it was not that long ago, almost every state would go to Trump. So this is a problem, even more so than the male female dynamic. It's as we get less white, it gets more difficult for the Republicans to win, and the Democrats understand that this they're playing the long game. Um, California and New York, I put also as an advantage for Kamala. Those are hardcore blue states. Speaking of demographic changes, and there's no chance they're really going to flip to Trump or Republicans anytime soon. Now, I think Trump will pretty safely win Texas and Florida, but those are states that are starting, they could go blue. They could become a battleground state in the next cycle or two. So Kamala's, she's sitting pretty safe with two huge states, California and New York. Whereas Trump is like, okay, he's probably got Texas and Florida, but it's a little bit more shaky. Another advantage Kamala has is she has an entire media working for her, almost entire media, except for maybe Fox News. And she has all the celebrities, because the celebrities, they support the regime, like Taylor Swift. And why that doesn't influence someone like me, I guess some normies, especially normie women, that will influence them. And that could have an impact too. And another thing I look at, a data point, is the 2022 elections for Congress. You remember that was supposed to be a red wave for Republicans. Turned out to be a red trickle. The Republicans didn't do very good in those elections. And that gives me pause because I think the pollsters were predicting a red wave. And usually the pollsters, they undercount Republicans. So Republicans do better than what the pollsters predict. The famous one being 2016 with Hillary Clinton. They gave her a 90% chance to win. And then, we know the rest of the story. But in 2022, that wasn't the case. Actually, the Democrats did better than the pollsters thought. And a big issue, again, was abortion. And again, it got a lot of the women out to vote to kill their children. And that's a tough issue. And then the final one, this is the biggest one that has me worried. All the other stuff is somewhat manageable. But the Democrats, they have this philosophy called by any means necessary. And that means they're not constrained by morality or the law when it comes to eliminate Nazis or Hitler. And that's why they've been really pushing this theme that Trump is Hitler and he's a Nazi. This gives people the permission slip to even break the law and to cheat in elections. And in a closely run election, some of these states are going to be very close. Do you really trust the Democrats to be honest, especially what we saw in 2020? Why won't they do that again? And we don't really have a mechanism to protest that because the regime says if you try to protest even fraud, even if it's obvious, if you protest, they're going to try to throw you in jail. And social media will censor you if you try to object. So there is no method to really counter the fraud easily because the regime has that baked in. And this is a big problem. So the way I look at it now, Trump coming into this election, if you're going to use like a football analogy, he's a better team. But Harris has like home court advantage or home field advantage, and she has the refs on her side. So it's in football, not always the best team wins because the refs can throw a questionable flag and change the game. We could be in that situation here. So that has me really worried. Otherwise, I'd predict a pretty easy Trump victory. But this, by any means necessary, how they can change things, they can have shenanigans. I'm pretty worried. And already Trump is saying that there is cheating going on in Pennsylvania. You could say he's lying, but a lot of things are already happening. And these people, they're quite evil on the left. They don't care about morality in the way we do. So that is concerning. All right, now I'm going to do the Trump advantages. The number one Trump advantage has right now is Kamala's a super weak candidate. She's her whole life done poorly. She got in her position originally because of sexual favors and then because of DEI. She's a black woman or Indian woman. She's always played that. When she ran in the 2020 Democrat primary, she did horrible, got less than 2% of the vote. She was selected as vice president because she's a black female. I didn't say that. Biden said that. She was despised as a vice president. She had one of the lowest ratings ever. She's a very lazy woman. She's pretty stupid. She doesn't have a lot of organic support. Again, most people that are going to vote for her are not voting for Kamala. They're voting against Trump. So she is a weak candidate. I think almost any other Democrat candidate probably would have an easy win over Trump. Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, some others, I think they would have at least an easier time of it. The Democrats really pick one of the worst candidates. The other issue Trump has in his favor is the economy. When all is said and done, most people vote based on the economy. Do they think the economy is doing well? And despite all the official lies, most people think no. We have a lot of inflation. Most of the jobs aren't going to Americans, they're going to third worlders that are pouring in. So if people vote based on the economy, it's going to go to Trump. The other advantage Trump has, we already have early voting, and Republicans, especially in the key battleground states, are doing better than expected in early voting. This is key. Usually Republicans traditionally do bad in early voting. The Democrats do better in early voting because they have more of a machine to harvest the votes than on election day. The older Republicans, they're the older boomers, they're used to voting on election day. They come out en masse and vote. Whereas now we're actually seeing the Republicans doing well in early voting. So that's a good sign. The other thing is the polls are showing that Trump is winning in most of the battleground states. It's within the margin of error. And even some states that you would think Kamala would be safe, Trump could potentially win, like New Mexico. People are talking maybe Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota will go to Trump, but it's in play. It's in play. So that doesn't bode well for the Democrats. And the polls, except for 2022, they usually undercount Republicans. You remember in 2016, they do. It's hard for them to get the model right for Republicans. And there tends to be always a surge of Republicans coming in at the end. The other one to look at is the betting markets give Trump about a 66% chance to win. And these are people in the know. They're betting with their hard-earned cash, and they don't care about propaganda, right? They're not trying to do a push-pull, trying to change your opinion. They want to win money. And people with the money that are betting are thinking that Trump has a pretty good chance of winning this. So that's where the money is. The other reason that favors Trump is there's a lot of Democrats that wouldn't be too sad if Kamala loses. I think they're okay with her winning. But if you look like a Gavin Newsom or a Josh Shapiro, they wouldn't really mind that much if Kamala should lose, because that would position them for 2028. They're on the A list. And if Kamala's in, then that's going to delay them potentially another 8 years. Whereas Kamala loses, they could be looking at getting the presidency in 4 years. Biden doesn't really care about Kamala. So that is going to factor in. The other thing I think this is huge with Trump is a lot of the elites like Bezos and Zuckerberg and some of the big papers, USA Today, for example, they have not supported Kamala. Now, they didn't support Trump, but these papers traditionally always support the Democrat. So it's really interesting. They're stepping back this election. It's almost like the elite are signaling to everyone that we're okay with Trump being in for the next 4 years. That's kind of what I'm seeing right now. Then Trump has the 2016 excitement and energy. It's very similar. We're getting a lot of excitement. It's got a lot of passionate crowds. 2020 wasn't so much. People were exhausted because of all the Antifa, BLM riots, and all that nonsense. And Biden, he positioned himself as a kind old grandpa, take everyone back to normal. Now, that didn't happen. We had economic disaster under Biden, wars under Biden, anti-whiteness under Biden. But people thought the Biden wouldn't be extreme. He turned out to be extreme, but they were hoping he'd just be like a nice old grandpa and it'd be some calm. So I think Trump now, we're getting back to the 2016 excitement. And finally, Trump has really run a good campaign. I think J.D. Vance was a really good pick. He's very smart. He's articulate. The campaign manager, they haven't done many miscues. And when there have been some miscues, they've handled it really well. And so it's a very professionally run campaign compared to Harris, who has some DEI pick running her campaign, and it's a disaster. So looking at all that, I do think that Kamala, in a fair election, I don't think she'd have much of a chance. But again, this isn't necessarily a fair election. Kamala, if I'm going to use a sports analogy, she has home field advantage, and the refs are going to give the benefit of the doubt to her. In a football game, that's how that sometimes works. So if in a tightly run contest, something could flip over really. You could have some mysterious ballots come in at 3 a.m. Could have a repeat of 2020. Trump looks ahead in all these states. You go to bed, and then, hey, we found some ballots, and they're all for Kamala. No, you can't look at them. And, I don't want to be cynical, but I can see definitely that happening. All right. Now, finally, my final prediction, and I did one of these interactive maps, and I'm going to put it out here, just give you my prediction of how the states will go. Da-da! Yes, I am predicting a Trump win. I'm predicting 287, 251. I did the map here. A couple things. I do think Trump barely wins Pennsylvania. That's going to be in the Trump camp. And North Carolina, those are the key states. I think Trump barely loses Michigan and Wisconsin, and he's not going to get New Mexico or Minnesota. So this is how I think it will play out. Georgia, I think, will go to Trump too. So Pennsylvania is going to be key. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, I think he's got the election. He doesn't really have to worry about Michigan or Wisconsin. He could win those states, though. But I predict it's going to be fairly close, but it's going to be a Trump victory. So I hope I didn't curse anything. I'm going to be streaming Tuesday night. Join us. We'll see how close I am to my prediction. But go out and vote. Go out and vote, even if you're in a state that's like California or like Arkansas, where it really doesn't matter. It's already decided. It's still a way to give a FU to the system. And if you vote for Trump, you're saying FU to the system and what you see happening to this country. So thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you guys later.